I got a creosote problem here in my Cubic Mini Woodstove. It's up here in the flue. I gotta fix that.
Tiny House Prepper.
Hi everybody, I'm Bill with Tiny House Prepper. And yeah, I got a creosote buildup problem up here in the flue. Actually, I have two problems with this stove that I'm going to be able to fix both of them today, and I'm excited about that. But first, before I talk about those two problems and how I'm going to fix them, let me just give you a little bit of a background on this stove. I've actually done quite a few videos about the installation and about the creosote problem. They're in a playlist of Cubic Mini Woodstove playlist, and I'll link that below and at the end. So if you haven't seen those videos, you can go back and see what I'm talking about. But let me give you a little bit of a background. We live in a 32-foot travel trailer, and this little stove, yes, it's really this small, heats our entire place for the entire winter for only 1/2 cord of wood, which is really pretty phenomenal. Now, because it's so small, and because the volume of wood that you can put inside there is so small, it does not last through the night. It'll burn maybe 3 hours and then it goes out. So, hi buddy. That's my buddy. So since our travel trailer is set here permanently, it's not going to move again, I was able to upgrade the 30 amp service to a 100 amp service, and then that allowed me to put electric baseboard throughout the whole place, just like you would in a house. So what we do, right there. So what we do is we burn this all day, we stoke it up before we go to bed, and then when it goes out at some time in the middle of the night, then the electric baseboard kicks in, takes over, and then we start it again in the morning. So we're really only using the electric heat 3 or 4 hours, you know, in the late night, early morning hours, and then this heats it 18, 20 hours a day. And it has worked really well for us. But if you watched my previous videos, you know that I've been talking about this creosote problem buildup up here. And when I put this in, I'm a contractor. I've been a contractor for decades. I built houses, many houses. I can do all aspects of construction. Masonry, though I don't like it, I can do it. Carpentry, plumbing, electrical, roofing, you name it, I can do it. With one exception. Fireplaces and wood stoves. I think I've maybe installed never a fireplace and maybe 2 wood stoves in my entire, life. So when I got this, I figured, well, it can't be that hard, just connect it together and go through the roof. So I did. But I made 2 mistakes. One is that I used single wall pipe, and I should have used double wall, and that is what is creating the creosote problem. And the other is that I actually installed the pipe upside down, so creosote is leaking out of every joint. So I'm going to fix that by putting in double wall pipe and turning it over so the creosote won't come out. So here's a section of the double wall pipe that I now have that I'm going to install. You can see that there is an inner pipe there. It's very small space between them, but it should be enough to keep the temperature up in here. Now, why would a single wall pipe create creosote problems where a double wall pipe would take care of it? Let me explain that to you. This is a little thermometer that I keep right up there so I can know how hot the flue is. Take a look at it. Actually, I'm going to take a picture of it so that you can see it better. Now notice here the yellow section. That is the optimal section, or the optimal temperature between 300, just under 300, and 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The lower number is Celsius. Now, that's the optimal temperature for the fire to be able to burn up the creosote so that the creosote doesn't cause a problem. If it goes into the red above 500 degrees Fahrenheit, then you're in a real serious danger of a flue fire. If it drops below about 290 or so, where the yellow ends. Then you're going to have a creosote buildup because the temperature is not high enough to burn up the creosote, and the creosote will actually condense on the inside of the flue, and as you get the creosote buildup, that's where the danger comes as far as a possible chimney fire, or it'll clog the pipe, which is the problem that I was having. Now, this little stove does a great job in heating our place, but because it's a small stove, it doesn't get as hot as a big stove. And so right after I stoke it, and it's as hot as it gets, it hits 300 or just above 300, which you can see is at the low end of the optimal range. But as soon as it starts to burn down a little bit, the temperature will drop to about 275, 250, which is too cool to burn up the creosote. And then what happens, it comes out of here at like 275, which is not quite hot enough, and then as it goes up the flue, it's the single wall and it's losing heat out of the flue, so by the time it gets to the top, it might only be 250 degrees, and then I'm getting the creosote condensing on the inside of the flue pipe, and it's creating a buildup, and that's the problem. So I'm hoping that this double wall pipe is going to take care of that problem. Now the other problem I had was that, like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing because I'd never done one before, and I installed this upside down. And so what was happening is right here around every joint, the creosote is leaking because it condenses and runs down, and it leaks out of the joint and it runs down on the outside. Now when that happens, then you smell the creosote in the room, and sometimes it gets so bad that it'll drive you out of here. And it got so bad that we couldn't use it anymore. So I bought the double wall pipe expecting to put it in, and then somehow I got it over the summer and I was going to do that as a project, but then somehow I misplaced the double wall pipe. Well, how can you do that in such a tiny house, right? Somehow it got buried in the back of one of the shelves of the new shed that we just built, and I couldn't find it. And I didn't want to go buy more because they're expensive. They're about $50 a piece for these, what's this, a 2-foot section? It's about 50 bucks for that. So I didn't want to go buy more because I knew I had them someplace. But bottom line is that we ended up going through the entire winter last year without being able to use this at all, because every time we started it, the fumes were so bad from the creosote on the outside that was leaking that it would drive us out of here and it would make us sick. So we ended up just not using this. So we ended up using the electric baseboard heat for the entire winter last year, which was of course a lot more expensive. Now still, even in the dead of the worst of the winter when it was 10 below Fahrenheit outside, it still only cost us about $150 a month to heat it with electric, whereas our 2,800 square foot home that we used to live in, if we used electric in that kind of heat, in that kind of cold, it would cost us about $500 or $600 a month instead of $150 a month like this little place does. So the electric baseboard works fine in here, but I still want to get this fixed because I want to be able to use it to save money. I really want to be able to use it when the power goes out, which happened once this past winter, and I couldn't use this, and we didn't have power for 5 days, and there was no heat in there. It was pretty miserable. So I got to fix this so it's usable again. So, double wall pipe. I'm going to install it, if I can figure it out. Oh, and another question that I get on a regular basis from people that watch my previous videos is, why is it that the flue used to go straight up and now it has this elbow in it? You can see I've still got the old hole here from where it used to go straight up. I haven't patched that yet. Lazy, I guess. Well, when it went straight up and I started having creosote problems and I had to clean out the flue, inside of here up above there's a second burn chamber that helps burn up the gases better, and I was afraid that if I cleaned this and creosote and crud would drop down into there, it would clog up that chamber. So the first time I cleaned it, I completely took the stove down so I could get up there and clean it, and then put it back. And then when I realized I was going to have to clean it on a regular basis, I thought that wasn't workable. So I did this, and this way I can take off this cap right here and clean it, and it'll drop down into a bucket that I put there, and I won't have issues with that. After I did that, I discovered that actually this plate up here is screwed in with screws or with bolts, and you can take the nuts off and take that plate out. So if it went straight up, I could take that plate out and then clean it and then put the plate back. That's a much better solution. I didn't realize it was that way. But now that I've got this set up this way, I'm not going to move it back again, because I have it all waterproofed up top, and I don't want to mess with that. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is and replace this section right here with the double wall pipe and leave this as it is. Another issue that many people have mentioned is that it looks like this section right here is galvanized pipe. This is stainless steel. It looks like that's galvanized. Well, it is galvanized. See, I got the 3-inch pipe from Cubic Mini Woodstove where I bought the stove, but they don't have any fittings. All they have is a straight pipe. So I went everywhere, looking everywhere, all over online, all over in local stores. I couldn't find any 3-inch fittings anywhere. I finally found this, and I didn't want to use the galvanized, but it was the only thing that I could find. It is heavy duty, so it doesn't burn out. We've actually used this through one winter and it worked fine. But the galvanizing, yeah, it was dangerous when we put it on there the first 2 days that we used it. It was burning off the galvanizing. I guess it's zinc or something else they put on there, I don't know. But when we first started, the first 2 days, it smelled really bad in here. We just let it burn and had to leave and let it clear out. Once the galvanizing burned off, now we haven't had any problems with it, and it works fine. Here we go. The problem with the way I had it before, which is upside down, it was like this, and the creosote, liquid creosote, would run down on the inside of this wall, and then it would hit this joint and it would be able to come out. See, it would run down and then it would hit here, and then it would come down between this and the outer pipe, and then it would leak out the bottom, where you can see it leaking right here. So what I need to do is turn it around so that when it runs down, it goes inside of this pipe and there's no way for it to come out. So now I have it going the correct way, and you see this, it says flow, so it lets me know that that side is up, and then I put this on here. Now it looks like it's still going on the wrong way, because it looks like it's still going to come out right here. But there's an inner pipe right here as part of the double wall, and this pipe actually slides inside of here, and this slides on the outside. So when the creosote runs down on the inside here, it's going to run inside of this instead of on the outside. So even though it looks like it's still wrong, it's actually right, because the inner pipe laps the opposite direction. This white, by the way, is just a plastic covering that I'm supposed to take off after it's installed, and it's stainless steel underneath. Now Cubic sent me this, which is supposed to be a connector that I can use up at the top to connect the double wall to this piece, and it does go nicely. I can't do it with one hand. See, now I have it slid up on there, and the lap there is correct. But no matter how I try to figure it, the lap here is still wrong when I try to put that other pipe on. I don't see how this is supposed to work. So what I'm going to have to do, this is the pipe that comes down from the roof fitting. I'm going to have to actually slice this up a little bit so that I can compress that and it'll slide down inside of the flue pipe to get the lap running correctly so that the creosote won't run out. It's the only thing I can figure to do. Now this fitting right here goes all the way up through the roof. It's at least a foot or more. So I think I'm going to cut it in the back. I was going to cut it here, but I'm going to cut it in the back so I can see what I'm doing. And I think I'm going to cut it about 2 inches straight up. That should now allow this to get just small enough that I can fit the other fitting over top of it. I hope. So now I've got this upper fitting cut. I've got this piece of flue pipe in. I need to cut a short piece of flue pipe to fit in there. Looks like it's going to be about 8 inches. So when I cut this, it came apart in 2 separate pieces. So now I can take the inner one and put it on first and then slide this one up. However, I still can't get that on there. I still can't get this piece small enough, so I'm going to have to cut it on the other side as well. And there we go. I'm good to go. Just take this white plastic off of here. Now I got the double wall pipe all the way up here, and the inside of the pipe is lapping the correct way so that the creosote will not be running out at the joints. Should all be tight and good to go. I'm excited because this winter we're going to be able to use this stove now. So hopefully now you've seen the fix to the creosote buildup problem and also to the leaking creosote that was smelling up the house. The problem really wasn't the stove. The problem was the flue system that I have. Although the stove, like I've said before, doesn't burn as hot as a big stove. So I'm still probably going to have creosote issues, but hopefully I'm going to be able to get by with cleaning it only once or twice during the course of a winter, instead of, you know, every 2 to 3 weeks like I had to do before. Now this is early September. I'm not going to be using this for another couple of months, but as we get into the winter and I start to use it and I see how it works and how well the creosote problem, see if it has resolved itself, then I will do a follow-up video and hopefully be able to let you know how this worked. So, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.